All right. I played this last week, but I didn't really get a chance to finish it. I was rushing through it because I was on the wrong Instagram channel, and I came over here to play you guys a song. So I want to play this one for everyone now that we're in the right place. So if you know this one, deep cut, points to you. Up in sky, it is a silver coach that carries the poison princess inside my veins. Nightfall stretches across my livid calf skin. I feel the pain, yet I smile cause it's mine. I've got moonlight, moon, yeah, light, moon, yeah, light, coursing my veins. There is another world beneath my fingernails, and all the smiles and the skin that you see on my frame. Some call me scandalous, I call it royal blood. I dip my crown in the flood. I am proud of the moon, yeah, light, moon, yeah, light, moonlight coursing my veins. I'm proud of the moon, yeah, light, moonlight, moon, yeah, light, coursing my veins, and it's coursing my veins, it's coursing my veins, yeah, oh my veins. And it's coursing the poison, it's coursing inside my veins, inside my veins. The poison, it's coursing inside my veins, inside my veins. This ethereal poison, this face-guided poison inside my veins, inside my veins. This translucent poison, ethereal poison inside my veins, inside my veins, my veins. All right, you're crying because I fucked that song up a couple times. I'm sorry. I got new strings, you guys. Look, see that? Coming in for a judo chop. Anyway, so not too proficient on the old acoustic guitar as much as I'd like to be, but coming on here has been a lot of fun talking to you guys every week. It's definitely giving me the impetus to work on it more. So yeah, jumping in here really quick. Oh, does anyone know what song that was? How deep was that cut? Still waiting. His eye. Moonlight Veins. Apparitional. So, last Blitzkid album that we put out. Someone was asking me, is there going to be a tour in October? Yes. Now, there have been conflicting reports from the government and other experts, which have just really arisen over the past few days. I know TB sent me a report last night from, I think it was Metal Injection, where they were talking about concerts may be postponed longer than people realize at this point. You know, like the scope is a little further than what people are really coming to terms with. So who knows? I don't know. All I know is that we are rebooked. All the shows are rebooked. All the dates are up on ACWNNPROD.com /shows. They're also on the Instagram page, my Instagram page, the poster with all the dates. The routing is the same. 98% of the venues are still the same. All the cities are the same. We've added Seattle, Portland, and Boise. So what does that mean? Basically, we're good to go. As long as everything happens in October and the world is still here and we're permitted to gather and do what we do, we'll be there. But yeah, it is a very strange time that we live in right now. Who saw this even coming the first time? I don't know where this is going to go. I don't profess to know. But worst case scenario, if for whatever reason October rolls around and there's this distancing and shelter in place thing still happening, we'll just have to reschedule. I mean, that's all there is to it. But we're just preparing for the best, and that's the way we want to look at it. So best case scenario, we're going to be on tour in October, and that's the way we're looking at it. Worst case, we just have to push it back again. But we're prepared either way. So, perfect timing for us to do a reunion tour, I realize. But we've come this far, and we're definitely going to be out there on the road playing for you guys. If anything, this whole experience, I've talked to TB about this, and I know for me personally, one thing it's done is really strengthened my interest in doing this tour, which was already tenfold. I know the both of us, we were very, very excited to do this, but, it's kind of like, want to go see a movie or something and it gets canceled. It just makes you want to see it that much more. So I don't know how you guys feel about seeing this, but I'm that much more stoked to play. And I know that when we do hit the road, it's going to be even that much better. So, and more time to work on my mic stand. Yes, I don't know how much work I'm going to get out of that in Blitzkid, but definitely. So, will I continue to do Instagram Live? Yeah, man. I mean, if you guys want to keep coming back, I don't know what degree of entertainment this is. I'm not trying to guide any form of, dialogue or entertainment. I just want to take the time to come on here and do what I want to do at any other time when the world is normal. But I think I mentioned on the first episode, a lot of what I do is just me. It's a lot of me, and that's not a pity party statement. It's just, it's facts. I have to do a lot of work behind the scenes. So it's a lot of planning, you know what I mean? Just to keep things running and it's not as easy. And I know that's an excuse, I feel like, to get on live as much as I think I would like to in other circumstances. But I feel like having done it these few times, it's definitely become something that I feel way more comfortable doing. And when I say comfortable, that's just, it's not even playing or talking to you guys. It's just hearing myself, seeing myself. It's not really the type of person I am. I'm a showman to a degree when I'm playing and I'm doing my thing, but I don't really feel like that automatically needs to translate into my personal life. I just don't automatically assume that you guys want to hear everything that I'm doing or anything that I have to say. So if you guys keep coming back, yes, I'll be here. Yeah, well, thank you guys for being here, man. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I strive to be a good host. Music video story. Oh my God. Okay. Well, I was going to get into the movie thing first, but I'm going to tell you guys a story. So we're gonna travel back in the mists of time in the Wayback Machine. It does have a steering wheel because it's a very old model Wayback Machine. Back to 2002, I'm going to say it was. Technology was on the cusp of becoming what it is now. And what I mean by that is social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. MySpace was biting the bullet, biting the dust, but so many other things were popping up in its stead. Do you know what I mean? At the early stages of that period of time, if you weren't technically sound, gifted, or blessed with some prowess, you were more or less left to your own devices or finding someone who could help you. It wasn't as easy as I'm on my phone and I'm going to take a video and post it. It wasn't like that, right? We just knew in Blitzkid that we needed, I know, I'm sorry, I'm making myself feel old, but we knew that we needed a music video. We wanted a music video. We wanted to do them for many years, but again, where do we go? So that's where our original webmaster, do you guys remember webmasters? When you couldn't do anything on your own, when you needed a website, and you had to have someone code HTML to make everything work for you? So you could clutter your entrance page up with splash images of zombies walking, which we did, because it was so cool. Enter in Joey Vaughn Kinsley. Joey Vaughn was a guy back in Bluefield, West Virginia, where we're from, who worked at the local TV news station, WVVA TV 6, the two Bluefields. Now, Joey worked, and I hope I'm not incriminating him. I think the statute of limitations, enough time has passed to where they can't sick the WVVA Pinkertons after Joey. But he was the late shift guy. So, that's right, Tiger, he was. She concurs. So more or less what that means is on your local news stations, after, the news, that's when that station went off the air. Right? That's the end of our nightly broadcasting. It was Joey's job to post that up and to play the national anthem and then put everything into, sleep, as it were, until 6 a.m. when the news came back on. So we had been talking about how we wanted to do a music video. And he said, well, why don't you come by the news station one night after we close? And we were like, oh my God, that's a great idea. What are we going to use? He's like, well, we'll just use the soundstage that they do the news on. And we'll just use their equipment, their cameras. We'll use everything. So we didn't think twice. We thought, yeah, that's a great idea. Not once did it occur to us that there may be some trouble brewing in that situation. Hold on one second. So we were like, all right, let's make this happen. So we set the time, we set the place. We came in one night after the news crew had left, and Joey, it was like 007. It's like, all right, you guys, come on in. So we roll in. They open up the garage, which is one of their loading areas, to the stage. We back the car in and pop the trunk, and there became our PA system. So pop the CD in. The first video we did was Nosferatu, and we just proceeded, before we got started, we proceeded to take packs upon packs of those bags of spider webs that you get from Walmart or wherever around Halloween for like 50 cents a bag. We had like 80 bags of these things, man. If you look at that picture, like, we're straight up trapped in those webs. Like, that's no joke. Like, we got in and it was like we couldn't get out. So prior to the photo, right, like setting the stage up, we were hooking these webs on the hooks behind the main area where they do the news broadcast on the curtain, and we were pulling them down to the ground and duct taping them. So that became our backdrop. And then we proceeded to do the videos, and we went about our business for, I don't know, we got there around midnight, started shooting around 1. And we just had to keep a close eye on the clock because they had a morning crew coming in to do the news. So straight up, man, we got to about 4:30 in the morning, and it was one of those things where, like, we got to bounce. We got to go. We have to wrap this up now. So you see it in the videos, and I'm not taking it away. If Joey's watching right now, not taking away from the gestalt or the quality of those videos. But you can feel an urgency in those videos. You can feel we might go to jail in the video. Like, you can see it. Like, there was no time to get the perfect shot. It was like, we're in, we're out. So 4:30 rolled around. We got all of our stuff together, and we got out just in time. All right. Like, I remember talking to Joey the next day, and he's like, that was a close one. Like, we almost got busted because I guess maintenance had come in earlier than they were anticipating. But the picture before we left, we took a bunch of promo photos because at the time we were on Anecdote Records and Trace of Stranger was coming out, and that was our attempt at an awesome, band photo, trapping ourselves amidst these webs. But the story with the webs doesn't really end there. We didn't do a good job taking the webs down. And if you've ever bought those webs, you know that randomly, like a prize within the bag, you'll find these little plastic spiders. Well, for the next X amount of days, they were finding these plastic spiders all over the newsroom or wherever that room is. And they were like, where are these plastic spiders coming? Because mind you, it was not Halloween. These are just things that Blitz could have in surplus, okay, at the time. And there were these little wispy trails of web just hanging on these hooks. And they were like, where is this? We got to get somebody in here to clean. Like, I was afraid we were to get somebody fired just because of, like, look at all the cobwebs in here. But yeah, so if you watch those videos and you go on YouTube, that's the story. We filmed those at a news station on news equipment. So whatever the weatherman was using, whatever's good enough for him was good enough for Blitz Kid back in 2002. And that ended our brush with music videos until ever. And we were just, it's too hard. We're not doing it. So that's the story behind the great newsroom Nosferatu caper, Love Like Blood. So I hope you guys enjoyed that story. Many more of those crazy things to talk about. All right, anyway, so before we move on, I'm going to wrap this up because I don't want to keep you guys on here too long. I know we got a good amount of people in the room tonight. Thank you very much. As always, like I said, I really appreciate it. If you guys want, I say this every week, you don't have to. I don't expect it. But if you want to jump over to my bio link on my page, Argyle Goolsby, there's a link there. It says ACWNN. I came up with the easiest website ever. .com/, I think it says live. If you want to make a donation to a poor soul filled with stories that no one wants to hear, then jump on over there and make it rain if you would. But if not, all good. Happy to be here. Oh, I'm glad I could take your mind off your job for a few hours. That's the story of my life. That's why I never was able to keep a job very long. I couldn't keep my mind on it either. All right, I got to tell the story too. I used to work for Little Caesars. I mentioned that earlier. I found an ingenious way to get out of work was when I would deliver, because I was a pizza delivery guy. I would just say to myself, okay, I went out today. And I would start complaining at whatever point in time that, a little early, a couple hours before, like, oh man, I ate this honey bun earlier and drank this milk, and milk was a bad choice, hot out, or one of those things, right? Like, oh. And then I would just make these statements and just plant those seeds. And then when I was out on my deliveries, I'd stop in the gas station, I'd buy a honey bun and a little thing of milk. I'd bring it into work, keep it in the back, and then when it was time to go, I would go chew the honey bun up, take a swig of milk, spit it in the toilet, make a few heave sounds, call in my manager and be like, there's that honey bun. And they're like, all right, take a hike. That only worked like twice. But if anyone's delivering pizzas and you want to go home, work for me. Not a very good story on my behalf. I apologize. Little Caesars, I apologize. I do tend to have a good work ethic, but sometimes you just want to skate. So what can I say? Yeah, there you go. Let's see here. The Conjuring movies, they're all right. They're cool. I'm not, I like them. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know. I appreciate. I don't really hate any horror movie. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really. Same with movies. I don't really have I don't like this. Unless it's just like blatantly just bad, subject-wise or tastefully. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, Conjuring, they're okay. You know what I mean? They're just not. I appreciate the angle. I just find it that there are more subtleties that aren't explored in movies like that. And what I mean by that is, if any of you are familiar with a director named Val Lewton, I don't know if anybody out there knows about Val Lewton. He was a director, kind of in prominence around the 40s. He did movies like The Cat People, So many. God, like I don't even know where to go with his movies. Cat People are probably like the one he's probably most known for, but in all of his movies, you never saw the horror per se. You never saw what was happening, and you don't even realize that you're not seeing it until someone points it out to you. I never realized it until I watched a little documentary on Val Lewton, and I was like, holy shit, you never see the zombies, you never see the cat people, you never see these things, but all of these scenes are implied through use of shadow, through use of primarily shadow. He'll use a lot of that. There's a scene of the cat people around the swimming pool, and I'm kind of jumping into something here that maybe some of you guys have no idea what I'm talking about. I apologize, but it's palpable. Do you know what I mean? Like the presence of this cat person, but you don't see it. And I think for me, there's more like effectiveness in that. There's a lot more effective horror, I believe. And it doesn't mean that it's better, but I think that some movies nowadays miss that. They're just so intent on showing you everything. They want to show you like quick flashes of the ghost and scare the shit out of you, and that's cool, but again, there's just something about leaving things to the imagination, I feel, that makes horror movies that much more poignant, I guess. So, classic horror is my favorite. That's why I love Vampire. Vampire's great. Yeah, Carl Dreyer. I mean, that's another great use of shadow. That's on the cusp of the silent era. Danish director, I believe. But an interesting little footnote about Vampire, is that it's not confirmed, but it is rumored that Max Schreck, who obviously played Nosferatu in the 1922 Nosferatu, provided his voice for one of the characters in Vampire. I'm doing more research on that. I'm going to try to find out more about that. And when the documentary, well, I should say when the score comes out this year, I'm doing a commentary on the movie, and I intend to have some more information on that, so we'll get back to that later, since you asked. Sorry. Conrad Veidt and Lon Chaney, absolutely. I mean, Conrad Veidt was supposed to play Dracula. Conrad Veidt, Paul Linney was supposed to direct Dracula, but he died, and then Conrad Veidt, who really never became comfortable speaking the English language while he was in Hollywood still, he just decided, if it's not going to be Paul Linney, I'm moving back to Germany. But Germany at that time wasn't an option because of everything that was happening with the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany. So he went to the UK, which is where he is now buried. I think he became naturalized as a British citizen at some point in his life. But yeah, that's an interesting story too. We'll have to talk about that one day as well. The whole coming to be of Dracula, because I mean, there's so much to that. I mean, we have Bela Lugosi, and that is an amazing place to arrive with that movie. But originally Lon Chaney was going to be Dracula. There's actually a script for it. I'll show you. I think I have it right here because I have these things in front of me at all times. If you get a chance to read this, Lon Chaney Talks, it's Dracula. It's the script. All the original scripts for Dracula for Lon Chaney. Now, this is John Balderston, who wrote the screenplay. So this was all written for Chaney, and I think I mentioned last week he ended up getting throat cancer due to a snowflake that got lodged in his throat. Not a real snowflake, but an asbestos, most likely, prop snowflake. And he ended up with cancer, and then that was it within a year. So after Chaney left, they were trying to move the vehicle, and long story short, we'll talk about that some other time. London After Midnight, yeah. let's see. Todd Browning and Lon Chaney. They indeed did. That was a good pairing. Definitely was a good pairing. So I'm going to jump into Mary Reilly now, if that's cool, guys. I just want to talk about that a little bit. Did any of you guys have a chance to watch it? I know it's hard to really catch these movies like on YouTube. White Zombie was easy because it's public domain. Mary Reilly, not so much. Cool. All right, somebody checked it out. So, a little bit about that movie. Why I find it interesting is I've always loved Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I've always been interested. Like most kids, was more familiar with the images of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde before I was the story, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which I, ended up reading when I was like 11 or 12, but prior to that, I'd seen Frederick March's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I hadn't seen John Barrymore's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde because, like, where are you going to find that at that time in the 80s? But one thing that I noticed was when I read the book, the screenplay of the movie is completely different than the book. Every adaptation of that story has taken so many liberties. And I don't say that critically, because I think they've all done really well with it. But for example, like Millicent Carew, she's not a character. There is no love interest for Dr. Jekyll in the story, right? So it's definitely different if you've seen the movies, depending on what movie you've seen the movie first before the story. But I thought Mary Reilly was really interesting when I saw it. So I went into that movie not expecting a true to the story adaptation of the movie. What I found in that was an angle that really hadn't been explored yet. It was the story as told, if no one had seen it, if you guys missed it and you weren't able to watch it. It's the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde told from the perspective of Dr. Jekyll's maid, Mary Reilly. Now, there's a lot of twists and turns in the story that I think some people may find boring. And admittedly, there are some moments in Mary Reilly where I'm kind of like, all right, it kind of drags. But there's a pathos, I guess, to Dr. Jekyll's character. He's not a monster. It's like Dracula in Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman, where the screenplay's devised to make you feel sympathy to a degree with the character. And I think with Mr. Hyde in all the prior versions of the movie, there might be momentary, like, ending sequences where, Hyde changes back to Dr. Jekyll and then they cue the violins and someone's crying and that's the end of it. But there's no real attempt to get to the heart of the character and like just the despair, I guess, of being trapped in that duality. Someone says it's really traumatic and dark. It really is. One thing that I really liked about Mary Reilly personally, aside from Malkovich not really turning into a full-on monster, was the dialogue. There was a lot of really just poignant lines that I felt were really cool. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of like one-liners from that movie that really summed up the story. It was poetic in a way. Interesting backstory on Mary Reilly. It was originally supposed to be directed by Tim Burton, which would have been awesome. I mean, the atmosphere is already, in bucket loads in that movie. And a lot of that is due to the fact that they didn't build the sets as much as they really just went and filmed the movie in old Victorian homes that were and had been furnished since Victorian period. So I feel like that lent a lot of atmosphere. The story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, for that matter, I can't remember the doctor's name. I should have done my research before this, but I never do. It was based on a real doctor in Scotland. Now, he wasn't in any way trying to create a serum that would separate his better nature from his baser nature, but I think he was a cabinet maker, if I'm not mistaken, and it came to be that he was respected, and then he had this, I guess, dual life that was everyone was shocked over, and that's where the whole concept of Jekyll and Mr. Hyde came from. But they actually filmed a few scenes in Edinburgh around the same area where this doctor would have had his practice, or this cabinet maker would have had his practice. But getting back to Tim Burton, his original role for Mary Reilly was going to be Winona Ryder as well, which, again, I can only guess how amazing that would have been to see a Tim Burton version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from that era. I love Tim Burton's movies. I gotta be honest and say that I'm not really so much taken by the stuff over the past 10 years, but that era of Tim Burton would have been on fucking point. So essentially, when Burton turned it down, the reason why he turned it down was he got the script for Ed Wood. So that's the only reason that didn't happen. And Stephen Frears, who was the director of Mary Reilly, he wanted originally to have Daniel Day-Lewis, which, again, I think would have been an amazing choice, because I think Daniel Day-Lewis is an amazing fucking actor. He did great Gangs of New York. Last of the Mohicans, you name it. There Will Be Blood. So many amazing characterizations. He would have been perfect, in my opinion. But Daniel Day said, no, thank you. And the studio, they wanted to have Al Pacino, which I don't really know how that would have worked. But I also realized that at that same time, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein had hit the theaters with Robert De Niro as the monster. And I liked that version of the movie. I liked De Niro as the monster. I don't think it was probably the end-all, be-all epitome of what it could have been. So maybe they were just trying to wrestle with that whole idea, bringing De Niro in to do Mr. Hyde. But I know that they were going to do originally Roman Polanski. I think they were going to, before Burton got it, they were going to talk to him about doing it with Jack Nicholson. That fell through. And ultimately, Julia Roberts beat out Uma Thurman for the role of Mary Reilly, which I think Uma Thurman would have did a great job. How this ties into Blitzkid, well, I should say Roving Midnight, is, I don't know if you guys have, I know a lot of you have it, I don't know why I'm being facetious, but if you have Darken Your Doorstep, there is, Al Pacino would have been fucking kind of hilarious. I agree with you. But if you have Darken Your Doorstep, there's a song called Life Without Soul on there. And I loosely based that off of Mary Reilly. The title, Life Without Soul, is actually from a 1915 Joseph Smiley movie that's kind of more or less based off of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So it doesn't really have anything to do with the movie, if you're wondering, the 1915 movie, but I felt the Life Without Soul title reflected the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde pretty good, so that's why I ended up going with that. But at the very end of that song, you guys should go listen to it, by the way, after this, there's a line where it says, aberration comes in like the tide. It bites its way through scarred divides. The imagery of scarred divides, I took that from Mary Reilly, where if you saw the movie, she has all the scars on her body from where her father had placed her in the stairwell, the closet, and she was gnawed upon by rats. So that's where the scarred divides line comes from. Just a little quick tidbit there. A little more you know moment. Why isn't Washer at the Ford on the woodcover reissue? It's on the European version. We wanted to keep something to keep the two versions kind of, different. Goolsby trivia. Shape of Water, I did see that. I thought that was really good. So, well, there you go, man. Be sweet to Mark. What's up, Mark? Everybody be sweet to Mark. So yeah, Mark digs it. So yeah, that was a song that I wrote the lyrics to that back in the Blitzkid days, but I never put the music together until Wrote Me Midnight. So film for next week. I was actually going to go a different way with this, but now that I brought up Val Lewton, if you guys could watch The Cat People, that's a good one. I don't know how easy it's going to be to find online. Again, just because everything is like licensed and copyrighted, so you may be able to find clips. But if you can find The Cat People by Val Lewton, I suggest that one. That's a really good one. You may be able to stream it. I don't know if you can rent it. I don't know. Maybe you can go to Blockbuster and get a VCR cassette tape of it. If they still have those in your town, maybe that'll work. But I think if you've never seen a Val Lewton movie, you'll be pleasantly surprised. They're paced very well for the 1940s. Admittedly, a lot of movies from that era can feel dated. They kind of plod. Again, I think a lot of that's just latent elements of the stage. 30 years into, 20, 30 years into sound becoming a thing. Someone says The Cat People might be on Amazon. So, yep. Awesome. So there you go. Or you can order it. You know what I mean? If you really want to go that far, if you got someone ordered Mary Reilly, right on. Commitment. I dig it. It's on Amazon for $3.99. It's definitely worth a watch. It really is. I could go on and on about, I can get really into Val Lewton, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to go into too many more diatribes for you guys. But as I said, a lot of his stuff, his catalog, it's really, like, I take a lot of inspiration from it personally. I know, like, someone was asking me if I have any screenplays. I do. I have a lot of movies, like ideas that I want to work on, and I'll actually get on here at some point with Adam from Horror Show Pictures to talk about all that and some of the old videos that we did in Vote of Light, whatever else we did, Mr. Babadook, The Uninvited. That's someone that I'd like to have on here, and we could talk more about that. So I don't think it's on YouTube. There is a 1982 version. It's actually really good. Spider Baby, yes. That's a good one. Lon Chaney Jr., right? Are we talking about the same one? Are you talking about the one with McDowell starring in it? The Cat People? Yeah, the Blu-ray, the Criterion, man, they're on point. I don't have any. The last thing I got from them was, I think it was Eyes Without a Face. Oh, damn it. We'll save that for another time. Carve Out a Heart, that's more of a TV story. So he'd probably be best to, the 80s Cat People with McDowell, HBO. That's a good one to watch too. It's different, but favorite silent film, Nosferatu. I first met Michael Graves at Paul Lifeless's house when they were recording Punk Rock is Dead. We had played a show with Mr. Monster, and we stayed at Paul's house, and Michael was there recording. So that's the first time I met Michael. Shadow Windhawk, yeah, man, we got to get him on here too. Yeah, I let the cat out of the bag. Eyes Without a Face, that is a really good movie, and an awesome song too. Billy Idol. Yeah, we have many, many lockdown weeks. Psychobilly, yeah, man, I like it all. I mean, I'm not, I'm fanatical about a few things. I like most. I'm fanatical of few. Near-death experience. I fell out of a boat when I was 9 years old, and couldn't determine which way the surface of the water was. I got trapped under the boat and pushed myself the wrong way. Felt things get colder and colder. My shirt getting heavier and heavier because I had this really, really rad purple thermal Skeletor shirt, straight up. And my dad jumped in, wallet and all, and pulled me out from under the boat. The boat wasn't running. It was trolling. We were fishing. I wasn't fishing. I was on the end of the boat pretending to be Simon Le Bon from Duran Duran from the Rio video. Because that's what I did when I was a kid instead of fishing. I have met Danzig. I've been on tour with Danzig twice now. Twice. Yes, twice. I did a tour with Gorgeous Frankenstein. Well, 2 tours with Gorgeous Frankenstein. And I could talk about that another time, too. Yeah, man, Rio, I was hanging off the edge of the boat. I was at the edge of the boat, like Simon Le Bon's on the thing at the end of the boat, singing the song. We didn't have one of those because my dad had a real sparkly blue bass boat. But, you know, it felt right to me. You know what I'm saying? And ka-splash right into the water. Oh, man. Yeah. So that's my near-death experience that I know of. And I also, my appendix perforated on the way home from tour back in 2016. It was at the end of a Roving Midnight tour. And I just finished In Votive Light. We were on our way home. Johnny had already driven home. Johnny from Crypt Keeper 5. Shout out Johnny, Crypt Keeper 5. He'd already driven home. And myself and JB from Mr. Monster, and at that time, Michael Graves, their tour had ended kind of where ours had ended, and JB was hitching a ride back east with us, so it was Shadow Windhawk, JB, and myself. We made a stop in Salt Lake City, and we did the video for In Votive Light, and on our way home, I started to get massive pains in my side, and by the last day, we were in Cleveland. Well, actually, it was more like around Toledo. I apologize. And we had stayed in this really, really trashy motel. And I slept out in the van that night just to keep an eye on everything. And I woke up with what felt like knives being stabbed into my appendix. Well, I didn't know my appendix at the time, but my side. So I endured what I could that night. Got up. I mean, I was up, but got everyone else up at like 8 in the morning and was like, let's hit the road. Let's get home. I made it as far as Dubois. That's right, Dubois, Pennsylvania, before all of the potholes and the rocking and the rolling had just like done me in. Like, I couldn't drive anymore. All right. So I go into urgent care in Dubois, and they lay me down on the table and start giving me rebound tests on my foot and say, your appendix, because it hurt when they tapped my foot, your appendix is coming out, or it needs to come out. You need to go to the hospital right now. So they more or less just like write on a piece of paper, here's the hospital, go. So I get to the hospital, and I was conscientious enough of my health and the situation to go, all right, this is serious. So I go in, I registered, they put me in a waiting room. 25-30 minutes later, I'm still sitting there doubled over in pain. And I start to get like the feeling of I need to go home. All right, it's still 8 hours away, but I just want to go. I've been on tour for a month, almost. It's time to go. I'm only 8 hours away. That's not a long drive if you drive across country. So I tried to leave the waiting room, and it was locked. The waiting room was locked. Straight up. Someone else was in there. So I sat down, mildly panicking. When they came to get the other person, I bounced. And this is where it would be helpful to have Shadow Windhawk or JV from Mr. Monster to tell the perspective. But I come walking up, and they're just like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm going home. I'm going home. So I proceed to hop into the giant tank that was the Roving Midnight van and drove 8 hours back to Connecticut. And the last hour, God love him, man, Shadow Windhawk took the wheel because I was seeing like spirally comets and shit flying through the air that wasn't there. So in the 11th hour, Noah took the wheel, and we called ahead to the hospital, told him I was coming. Got there, my good buddy Fred Hilliker, shout out to Fred, punk rock nurse. He was there to take Noah back to the city, but I roll into the parking lot, and just they had a wheelchair waiting on me, and I fell into it, steam coming off my body. Fred's looking at me like, dude, you're insane. They take me in. They're like, you got to go to surgery right now. So I was in surgery within like the first, I think, 20 minutes of being at the hospital. And they said that it had started to perforate. And if I would have waited any longer, then it could have leaked into my system, created sepsis, and I would have died. So, yeah, that's near death. But I made it. I live to fight another day. That was intense, though. Like camping. Intense. Straight up. Des Moines. I can't remember. Oh, man, your lung collapsed. That's no good. I don't ever want to deal with that. Yeah, man, the appendix is no joke. Like, you know, it's a vestige organ. No real use for it. You don't even know it's there until it starts kicking you in the fucking stomach in the middle of the night. So, cat people, 1942. That's the year. My favorite food, oh my god. It depends on what kind of mood I'm in. How do rock stars get health insurance? Get back to me on that. JV left his phone in the ladies' room of that hospital and said, Fred. Oh man, Fred, we got to get you on here to talk about that experience. Like, I'll never forget your face when you saw me. I looked like I just came out of the microwave when I got out of that van. So that was the most feverish I think I've ever been. I've had a few fevers. The name Argyle Goolsby, it's a hybrid of Goolsby is a name of really someone I called when I was telemarketing, and it was better than Zombie Eater. And Argyle is a place in Scotland that some of my family is from. How did I meet Jason? I met Jason at a show in South Carolina in 2001, and I walked up to him, and I've told this story, and I'm sorry if you've heard it, but it's worth telling. The song Gore Whore, I had just really discovered Mr. Monster a few weeks before. I liked the song. There's a lyric that says she likes to bat fuck, and I thought he said butt fuck. And I went up to him and I asked him, in all of my West Virginia glory that I could muster, hey man, in that song Gore Whore, are you saying bat fuck or butt fuck? And this is what Jason did. He had a cigarette. He goes like this. He goes, bat fuck. And he put the cigarette out and he walked away. And that was it. I was like, oh, blew that. But then that night we were hanging out and we became buddies. So, how is my memory so fucking ridiculous and clear and accurate? I don't know, man. It's definitely not genetics. I can tell you that much. How did Jordy and I meet? We met at, here, someone had to comment on my memory. Thank you. We met at B.B. King's in New York City at the end of the Gorgeous Frankenstein tour. My accent. I think I have one. Do I have an accent? Inquiring mind wants to know. An accent. You don't count. Your opinion does not count. I'm just kidding. I can turn the accent on if I really want to. I have been starstruck. I've also made a fool out of myself many times in front of people. I'm not going to tell the story today because we're running out of time. And there's going to be many more lockdown Mondays, I promise you, as it looks. I'll tell you the Slash story. Somebody remind me. Make it a note. All right? Ask me to tell you the time that I met Slash from Guns N' Roses at Ragin' Waters Water Park in San Dimas, California, where they filmed Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, if it wasn't surreal enough already. I will have to tell you that at some point. Very mild. I think so. You should hear me speak German. It's like a hillbilly. Du hast. Ich nehme Argyle Goolsby. Ich bin 26 Jahre alt. Mein Hauptfach ist Kunstgeschichte. Ich brauche ein Döner bitte, kein Zwiebel. That's my German. You learn German quick when you're hungry. I'll tell you that much. San Dimas. All I know is that Slash loved San Dimas, but he didn't love me. No, sir. I pissed that dude off. And I pissed David Hasselhoff off too. I hassled the Hoff Instagram Live in flesh and blood. And it was not my intent. But I'll have to tell you another day. Because again, I'm running out of time and I want to get to some more questions. But David Hasselhoff Slash, I'll share all the embarrassment with you. Carnival of Souls, yeah, man, that's a great one. That one was actually, interesting story. I played The Great Solid Air on, someone was asking if I ever met Danzig. I toured with Danzig and Gorgeous Frankenstein, and we played The Great Solid Air, which nowadays there's very little left of it, but in Carnival of Souls, that's the carnival. There's one part left, and like it was, that for me was like, I was like, hey, Danzig's cool, but like I'm playing Carnival of Souls. Yeah, I'm sure he liked me. He did like me better than Cheeseburger, but he liked his yogurt better than me. That ties into the story. I met him at a yogurt shop. I'll leave you with that. There's actually, this is crazy, all right, how this is all coming together, but we're talking about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and we're talking about the Hoff. You know what happens when you put those two things together? David Hasselhoff on Broadway doing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Look that one up. That happened. It did. And I ain't gonna lie, it's not that bad. But don't let it trump cat people. My favorite Gothic novel, Wuthering Heights. I consider Wuthering Heights like quintessential Gothic literature. Although the Bronte sisters aren't really necessarily classified as Gothic. But I have not seen Bowie. Bowie's in space. Oh, God, man. Cough cool. You pissed off Davey Havoc, and not intentionally. It's easy to do, man. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just, you zig when you should have zagged. How did I meet Johnny Coffin? Through Coffin Case, through Blitzkid. You know, we started going out, playing shows, and then I started modeling some of their catalog products, and we had the endorsement, and that's how that happened. I have not seen the Elephant Man play. I haven't, no. I ever meet Kurt Cobain? Duh. Yes. I'm sorry if someone asked and I missed. Cat People is next week's. Any fans ever piss you off? Nah. I mean, I've everybody has their good days and bad days. I've pissed people off sometimes just because, you know, you never really know what experience someone's wanting to have, you know what I mean? Sometimes you try to make yourself accessible, but sometimes, like at a show, maybe something else is happening, and I've definitely heard like, well, he's an asshole because, you know, this happened, but I'm also like, yeah, but I'm also like packing up my gear and trying not to lose everything. So I think that opens the door for those things more than not when that happens to people, I think. Jane Doe is about someone that I knew that was murdered. That is correct. That's a long story. The Blitzkid Zombie Picks. Yes, we were endorsed by Hot Picks USA, and you could buy our picks in Hot Topic back in the day. Imagine that. Don't worry about approaching people at a show. Like someone say, it's not even that. You know what I mean? Some people are going to have a chip on their shoulder, and that's just how they are and who they are. Some people use what they do, like what I do, for example, rock and roll, as a soapbox, as a stage. It's a bridge for me, more than a stage. It's not a platform. It's a bridge. That's the best way that I can explain it. So I'm always interested in talking to people, and I mean, listen to me. I've been going for 2 hours, and you guys haven't even asked me to. So you're very kind, by the way. I think it's important, you know. Again, and it's not like, oh, well, it's important because, you know, you have merchandise and you have this and shows and tickets. It's relationships, man. It's, you know, that's what this is all about. When I first started playing music, I came from a very small town where there was nobody doing what I liked. And nobody, and I mean nobody. I didn't meet TB until like years. I mean, I'd had like 15 ass kickings for a mohawk before I even met TB and realized there were other people out there that, you know, I could get my ass kicked with. So, you know, Blitzkid became like not a stage. It was just a conduit to meet people and find people that are like-minded. Do you know what I mean? People, music, personalities, they all evolve. But, you know, it's that whole root system. You know what I mean? It goes with you. And you can... Some people, you know, if that's not your intent to begin with, then you don't have it. And that's why you're going to be a jerk to people. But I come from a place where I'm just as big of a fan as music and bands and live shows as you guys are, possibly of Blitzkid and stuff that I do. So I get it, man. And I appreciate it. You know, and that's why I'm glad we're doing this right now, too. I remember being 15 and you stood in line with me at one of your shows in Hollywood. Well, there you go, man. I'm glad you remember that. So guys, I'm already closing in on hour 2. And again, I'm so sorry to keep you guys on here as long as I have. I do know that a lot of people are working. Some people have said to me, like, look, I kind of have to come on later. So that's why I'm here. I'm not here just to hear myself talk. I'm not here to try to wow you guys with all of what I think are amazing stories. It's really not that. I just want to answer your questions and hang out and get to know you guys on a more personal level and vice versa. But I know some people kind of like trail in a little later. So that's why I'm trying to keep these a little more accessible. I only do this once a week, you know, because again, I don't want to oversaturate it. So it's either to see me for 2 hours on Monday or like every 10 minutes throughout the week. But yeah, man, I really do appreciate you guys' time. Thank you so much. And if you're just tuning in, the movie is not Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with David Hasselhoff, but you should watch it. It's going to be the Cat People from 1942. So yeah, just we'll see where this thing goes, man. And what I mean by this thing, I'm talking about the coronavirus. If you guys were here with Nim Vind, I mean, clearly this is serious. You know, dude just lost his uncle literally 15 minutes before we were supposed to start this episode. So Uncle Bob was awesome. I met Uncle Bob, and I don't want to profess to say that I knew Uncle Bob, but I knew him. Just like I knew Nim Vind when I met Nim Vind, and I know all my rock and roll friends when I meet them because we're on that same pirate ship. So, giving this out to Uncle Bob, everybody, light one up, kick one back, dance one out for Uncle Bob tonight. And thank you guys for coming around, and we'll see you next week, all right? So take care of yourselves, take care of each other, be mindful of each other, be excellent to one another, and I'll see you guys on the flip side, all right? Uncle Bob, that's right. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later. Long live the horror. Good night. Oh, where's the end? There it is. Her.